What's good, YouTube world? Killua Morales is back at it as promised with a top 10 list. Now today, I'm giving you guys the top 10 best moments from the Grisaia trilogy. Now, I knew if I wanted to go into further detail about the story and the characters, Yuji especially, I knew it would have taken a long time, so I decided to dedicate a top 10 list about it. Now, this anime was an emotional ride, so expect there to be some feels and expect there to be some spoilers. And with that aside, let's hop into it.
Number 10. Welcome to Mihama Academy. Wow, what a way to set up the tone of the story in the most misleading way possible. Just from the opening credits, you'd expect something dark with each of the captions showing off each of the 5 girls, and you wonder what do these captions mean. And that's when you meet the man himself, Yuji Kazumi, who comes off as a blank slate as he learns about not only his new school life, but also meets his bizarre classmates. Each character is quirky and relatable, including the childlike principal. And after meeting all of the main characters, you see each of the 5 girls doing something that's a far cry from their personality when they're introduced. From Amane showing that she knows who Yuji is, to Sachi making what looks like a bomb, and later Yuji getting a call and opening a big ass case only to see in his eyes what looks like to be a sniper rifle. And that's when you realize, if you pay attention to the small details, you realize that the story is more complex than it comes off as, and this anime delivered it beautifully. Number 9. Yumiko fakes her death. Oh, Yumiko. It's a goddamn shame that your character arc was completely rushed, especially when you consider the best girl in the harem. You see, after he protected her from being taken away by some men working under her father, Yumiko finally opens up to Yuji on why she's the way she is. Understanding her struggle, Yuji decides to help her fight against her father's corruption. And as the story progresses, very quickly at that, you finally see Yumiko standing up for herself instead of holding back what she's feeling, showing her father that she wants to live her life the way she wants and refuses to live it the way her father wants. This leads to her confining herself in the school dormitories with a gun, but the moment she ran out of bullets, her father's men try to rush into the dorms. Unfortunately, it was too late for them as she blew herself up with a grenade. And as you see her father's anguish over losing Yumiko, he finally realizes all the good he had until it was gone, as he redeems himself for what he did to her. And it's just that it's a goddamn shame that it was a complete cop-out when it was revealed that she faked her death to finally get her life back. But hey, you get a nice sense of relief when you see her smile. Number 8. Yuji kills 10 soldiers. This moment in Eden really showed what Yuji's mental state was like after going through so much torture growing up. It was hard enough seeing him overreact to killing a fly in the first episode, but seeing him kill 10 soldiers, that was even harder to watch. I mean, being mentally manipulated and drugged for years to be the ultimate killing machine, and then having a sudden life change where you aren't meant to kill, can put your mind in an existential crisis. And Yuji goes through this when he manages to kill 10 opposing soldiers on the battlefield with his sniping skills, with the limited ammunition that he had. Even though he accomplished 10 headshots, his mind was in full crisis mode as he kept spouting out that he has to kill with his knife pulled out. This showed that even though he's lived a somewhat peaceful life after being rescued from Heath Oslo, it doesn't change the fact that the mental scar Heath left on him still lingers in his head. Number 7. Yuji kills Kyoka. Makina may be the weakest and arguably the most annoying of the 5 girls, but you can't help but hate her family, her mother Kyoka especially. And their corruption knows no limit when they decide to put a hit out on Makina and use her organs to save her little sister after an assassination attempt left her on death's door. And when Yuji's given that task to kill her, they go on the run fighting off his co-workers while finding out who it was to put a hit on her in the first place. The moment where Kyoka truly became irredeemable is when Makina was hospitalized after getting shot, and she just asked JB why isn't she dead yet. And this made her death all the more satisfying when Yuji infiltrates her conglomerate as a delivery man. And the look on his face as he pointed his gun at her showed not only his rage, but also some sadness for killing the family member of someone he cares for. And not only do we see the death of a true baddie, but we see Makina come out stronger than before, and just as annoying as well. Number 6. The reveal of Thanatos. This one is a little confusing and equally convoluted because when you sit down and think about it, it doesn't make sense for the story to add a sci-fi element to a story completely grounded to reality. but I made an exception because it's a pretty nice plot twist. Let me explain. Yuji was tasked to kill a person smuggling weapons at a harbor, only to reveal that it was his former guardian and global terrorist, Heath Oslo, which then leads to Yuji having a mental breakdown. This leads to him being confined in an unknown area in his job, where he's shown a supercomputer with an advanced AI that somehow knows him, only for it to reveal that it's his dead sister Kazuki. This is an emotional moment for Yuji, who had already had suicidal feelings. He was already at the end of his rope, so him learning that his own flesh and blood was still alive and used as basically a supercomputer CPU, it makes him feel not only relieved that she was still alive after over 5 years, but it also makes him angry that she wasn't there for him when he needed the most. So the moment where they meet in person after so long, you feel the weight of emotion flowing between them, making it one of the most emotional reunions in anime. Number 5. 10cm field of fire. As amazing as the sniper scene was in the beginning of Labyrinth of Grisaia, it was this sniper scene from the Fruit of Grisaia's finale that was the best. After Yuji and Amane have a tender moment where Yuji forgives her for what happened to his sister, you'd expect an epic conclusion to her story arc. And you get that when the father of one of the girls that died in the accident holds the girls of Mihama Academy hostage in an attempt to get revenge on Amane. You can't help but sympathize with the guy since his daughter was involved in this accident, but it was plain as day that this guy had lost all sense of reasoning. Unfortunately for him, he was nothing that Yuji couldn't handle, as Yuji manipulates the crisis so that he gets him in one area where he has a small window of fire, 10 centimeters to be exact. As this guy is about to rape Amane, he decides to take a piss because he clearly drank too much, which brings us to this epic sniper scene. This was not only an epic conclusion to Amane's story, but also the Fruit of Grisaia, as it could have easily ended the story there. But that wasn't the case, as we see later that the story was far from over. Number 4. Asako's death. Asako Kusakabe was mentioned multiple times in the Fruit of Grisaia, but Yuji never spoke much about her except for the fact that she raised him and that she died prior to the events of the story. So it was a nice breath of fresh air to see who this lady is when she's first introduced in the Labyrinth of Grisaia. After finding Yuji in Heath's mansion, dressed up as a girl at that, she decides to take it upon herself to raise him. And as the story progresses, you see her relationship with Yuji blossom into something like a mother and child, except a little too intimate at times. Now this was one of the few moments where we see Yuji's mind put at ease. That's until you remember her fate. So as the story progressed, her health started to deteriorate and she was inching closer and closer to death's door. You feel the weight of her death as Yuji kept holding her hand, not wanting the one thing that's keeping him from killing himself to leave this world. But there was no stopping it in the long run. And this moment put Yuji at a crossroads as he starts questioning his life again, wondering if it's even worth living, leading to the events of the Fruit of Grisaia. Number 3. The rescue mission. This moment was so epic that I couldn't help but watch it over and over and over again. You see, throughout Fruit of Grisaia, it was Yuji that was helping the girls come to terms with their self-loathing and helping them find their will to live. It was until they found out in an ironic twist that Yuji was self-loathing, was basically prepared to die. So with some strong resolve and the help of Thanatos, the 5 girls not only come to terms with their feelings for Yuji, Yumiko especially, but they also plan to help him escape his peril, preventing him from not only being imprisoned for a crime he didn't commit, but also being captured by Heath Oslo, giving us some intense moments. Every girl besides Michiru has their moment, from mocking a sniper scene with unnecessary fan service to Sachi going non-lethal Rambo on Heath's henchmen. Your heart will be racing from start to finish, and you feel a sense of relief when they escape. This could have easily been the best moment in the trilogy, but there were 2 other moments that stood out more. Number 2. Yuji kills his father. Now, I had to bring up a moment from the Labyrinth of Grisaia, but it was hard to decide between this, the training camp, and when Yuji meets Asako. In the end, I chose this moment as this was the moment that broke Yuji. You see, he and his family were fresh off the death of his sister, and his father was already neglecting him and didn't hide his hatred for Yuji. But Kazuki's death made his father change from a neglectful one to an abusive and alcoholic one, where he would abuse his wife and son practically every day. You can't help but hate his character more and more more as the story progressed, and he only got worse when he tracked down his wife and son after they ran away from home a year after Kazuki's death. Not wanting to see his mother suffer, Yuji tries to fight back, but his father just attacks him and then rapes his mother right in front of him. At this point, Yuji had enough of his father's abuse, so his anger just hit its boiling point, leading to Yuji gaining his first blood after hitting his father on the back of his head with a bottle of booze, killing him on impact. This scene was so difficult to watch, as this was the end of Yuji's innocence, as he could never be the child he should have been raised as, and his mother's suicide only made it worse for him. Number 1. The final confrontation. And now we have the epic conclusion that was built up since Labyrinth. Yuji finally got his life together, but he knows that if he truly wants to be free from his suffering, he has to confront the man that turned him into the anime version of John Wick. With that in mind, we have the final episode of the Grisaia trilogy, where Yuji goes John Wick on Heath Oslo's henchman, until he confronts something he's never seen in his life, his genetically enhanced clone. Now this fight was one of the most underrated in anime, where we see Yuji, metaphorically speaking, fight his personal demons in the form of an evil twin, which reminds me so much of the battle between Solid Snake and Liquid Snake in Metal Gear Solid. Now the battle against his clone was hard to watch at times due to the drug usage that nearly made Yuji revert to his old self, but he managed to come out on top. And after a hard-fought battle that could have killed him, Yuji finally confronts the big baddie himself. Though this fight was not as amazing as the previous, it was much more intense, as Yuji is feeling the side effects of the drug he was injected with. You can tell that his body is at its breaking point. So the moment Heath stabbed him in the stomach with a katana, you'd think that it was ending on a tragic note. But fortunately for us, Yuji fought through all of his pain, forcing the katana further and further into his stomach just to pin down Heath Oslo and finish him off with, of all things, a ballpoint pen, which was a nice little callback to what Heath taught him when he was a kid. And this moment was just the perfect conclusion to the trilogy, as Yuji was finally free of his demons and now has the will to live.
Well, that's it for this video. What was your favorite moment from the Fruit of Grisaia? Comment below to give me your thoughts. And now that that's over and done with, it's time to hop back into reviewing anime. So since February is basically coming to an end, it's safe that I do a review on my favorite genre of anime, and that's romance. So what romance anime do you expect me to review? I'll leave that to your imagination. But until then, if you guys want to see more videos like this, just like, comment, subscribe, and be sure to tap the bell icon so you're never missing out on a future video. But until then, thanks for watching. I'm leaving in Godspeed. Peace.